No man can be a good teacher unless he has feelings of warm affection towards his pupils and a genuine desire to impart to them what he himself believes to be of value. A teacher has to become just like a student among other students and share and spread their knowledge as much as they can, what they have experienced in their life. This is not the attitude of the propagandist. Propagandist will not show you any love or affection. They just want to inject the message they are supposed to give to the students. So that's how the propagandist will become different from the teacher. To the propagandist, his pupils are potential soldiers in an army. They will train them and will force them to work as per the propaganda. They are to serve purposes that lie outside their own lives. Those messages spread by these propagandists will not be centered on our lives, not in the sense in which every generous purpose transcends self, but in the sense of ministering to unjust privilege or to despotic power. That means the propagandists will always favor the political parties and their power. The propagandist does not desire that his pupils should survey the world and freely choose a purpose which to them appears of value. The propagandist will not give them a space to think, to discuss. They just want them to obey whatever they have taught them. He desires, like a Toparian artist, that their growth shall be trained and twisted to suit the gardener's purpose. Just like a gardener, shapes the plant and cuts away all the branches and leaves according to his like. This propagandist is also like an artist. He will make the students mold in such a way that they will be living their life according to his message or his preaching. And in thwarting their natural growth, he is apt to destroy in them all generous vigor, replacing it by envy, destructiveness, and cruelty. So these people will not have a natural growth. They will only have negative emotions like envy, destructiveness, and cruelty to destroy everything which is against that political party which the propagandist favors. There is no need for men to be cruel. On the contrary, I am persuaded that most cruelty results from thwarting in early years. Above all, from thwarting what is good. No man born as a bad man. It is the training or the thoughts that have been injected to them makes them bad. So these early years, that is the formative years of the children or the students, should be handled with care, otherwise our society, even our nation, will be in danger. Repressive and persecuting passions are very common, as the present state of the world only amply proves. There is always a natural tendency of inclining towards negative aspects. So, if this kind of destructive and cruel thoughts and messages are given to these students, they will only act like that. But they are not an inevitable part of human nature. But we can change, we can make them bring back to normal. On the contrary, they are, I believe, always the outcome of some kind of unhappiness. In our world, criminals, pickpockets, thieves, all are generated only because of poverty or some kind of injustice that happened to their life. So it should be one of the functions of the teacher to open vistas before his pupils, showing them the possibilities of activities that will be as delightful as they are useful, thereby letting loose their kind impulses and preventing the growth of a desire to rob others of joys that they will have missed. So it is a duty of the teacher to show the pupils the world, the scope, the possibilities that are available to them, that will give them lot of joy, happiness, and will give them a freedom to think and act with all their spirit and impulse. And why? Because the teachers have to prevent wrongdoings in our society. To rob another's happiness is a wrong thing. So the teacher must make them, the students, think about how will they feel if they lose happiness. Then they will let others live happy. So many people decree happiness as an end, both for themselves and for others. But one may suspect them of sour grapes. Happiness is a main aim of all of us, right? We all want to have a peaceful and happy life for ourselves and for others. But some people will not let others live in a calm way. So it is one thing to forego personal happiness for a public end, but it is quite another to treat the general happiness as a thing of no account. For our own happiness, we will make others suffer. In that way, we are only thinking about personal happiness and not the general happiness. Yet, this is often done in the name of some supposed heroism. They will think that it is heroic to do such a thing, to make others suffer and enjoy ourselves. So, in those who take this attitude, there is generally some vein of cruelty based probably upon an unconscious envy, and the source of the envy will usually be found in childhood or youth. If someone are behaving cruelly to another person, that root will be, of course, there in his childhood or youth. Some kind of injustice or envy things might have happened in his life that make him an anti-hero in his life. So it should be the aim of the educator to train adults free from those psychological misfortunes and not anxious to rob others of happiness because they themselves have not been robbed of it. So it is educator or the teacher who have to let students think freely and not only think about the personal happiness but also the general happiness, not to rob others' happiness. As matters stand today, many teachers are unable to do the best of which they are capable. They are not getting a platform or a chance. Everything, the education has become exam oriented. So there is no space or no time for life centered education. For this there are a number of reasons, some more or less accidental, others very deep seated. To begin with the former, most teachers are overworked. They have more work to do. They don't have time to spend with students, to have discussions, to have debates, to make them think, and are compelled to prepare their pupils for examinations rather than to give them a liberalizing mental training. Education is all about the all round development of the student, but today's scenario is just like that. The teacher is only entrusted to make them prepare for the examinations. The people who are accustomed to teaching, and this includes practically all educational authorities, have no idea of the expense of spirit that it involves. It's not only the teacher, the educational authorities also should think about it. We have to mold the minds of the students. That is what the main thing. Clergymen are not expected to preach sermons for several hours every day, but the analogous effort is demanded of teachers. Anyone can become a teacher, even a clergyman, but they cannot take classes just like a teacher, because uh, because majority of our time we spend at school and colleges. So it is only the teacher who can do a proper duty in molding the students. But the result is that many of them become harassed and nervous, out of touch with the recent work in the subjects that they teach, and unable to inspire their students with a sense of the intellectual delights to be obtained from new understanding and new knowledge. We are just mugging up whatever is written in the textbook. There are many other things, there are many more to understand, more to learn, more to discover. But our schools are not up to that level. There's a lot to change. So this, however, is by no means a gravest matter. It is a most important matter to be think of. So in most countries, certain opinions are recognized as correct and others as dangerous. When we have a debate, when we have a discussion, there will be a favorable party and there will be an against one. So teachers whose opinions are not correct as expected to keep silent about them. It is very important that the teacher should have right and correct opinions. If they mention their opinion, it is propaganda, while the mentioning of correct opinions is considered to be merely sound instruction. Propaganda and opinion is different. Propaganda is something that like the teacher will force the students to act like it. But opinion is teacher's way of dealing with students. Teacher tells his or her opinions and the student can think about it whether it is right or wrong. It's just an instruction. The result is that the inquiring young too often have to go outside the classroom to discover what is being taught by the most vigorous minds of their own time. If they get different aspects of a same thing from a teacher and from the society, they will become confused because they are in a position of confused state, in an inquiring mind they have. So it is different from what they learn in a classroom and what they get from outside the classroom. So that kind of delicate minds should be taken care of, because it may be easily inclined to wrong things or negative aspects. So there is in America a subject called civics, in which perhaps more than in any other, the teacher is expected to be misleading. There's a chance for misleading. So the young are taught a sort of copybook account of how public affairs are supposed to be conducted and are carefully shielded from all knowledge as to how in fact they are conducted. So in that subject, the young are taught how things are supposed to happen in the society. I mean the public affairs that are supposed to happen. They are not given the knowledge about what is happening outside the world, around the in the society. So when they grow up and discover the truth, the result is too often a complete cynicism in which all public ideals are lost. Whereas if they had been taught the truth carefully and with proper comment at an early age, they might have become men able to combat evils in which, as it is, they acquiesce with a shrug. So they are learning only the things that are supposed to happen, only the good things. But when they enter into the society, they will realize that all the public ideals are lost. It's in a destructive position. So they will realize the truth. Oh, this is what is happening in real. So it is important that at the early age itself, they have to be given a proper idea or awareness about the public affairs. Then only they will be able to combat the evils. They will be able to compete in the society. Otherwise, they will become confused and in a state of dilemma that what to do, how we can change the world. So, it is a duty of a teacher to give proper awareness and also the solution to the problems in the society. Module 7 Basic Grammar Tenses. In the last class, we have already discussed about the present tense, and today we will discuss on the past tense. A verb that denotes an action which took place in the past time, it is said to be in the past tense. So we can divide the past tense into four. First one is a simple past tense. A verb in simple past tense denotes an action which was completed in the past. For example, she did her work. I wrote a letter yesterday. So simple past is also used to express past habit. He used to come by 9. Next is past continuous tense. The past continuous tense is used to show an action that was actually going on at some time in the past and was not finished then. For this, ing form of the verb is used with was and were. I was sleeping, the girls were playing. Next is past perfect tense. The past perfect tense is used for an action which has already begun before another action which takes place in the past. The rain had stopped when he went out. The train had left when he arrived at the station. And the last one is past perfect continuous tense. A verb is in past perfect continuous tense denotes an action which commenced before a past action and was continuing in the time of the action. He said that he had been writing for 3 hours. I had been preparing a report when he met me. So that's all about the past tense. In the next class, we will discuss about the future tense. Thank you.